Okay, so we are reviewing the Jaclyn Hill palette volume 2. So I ordered this last week. I just got it in the mail today. Inside we have all the different shades, and at first when I saw this I was a little intimidated by it just because all of this, but in person it's really not as like bright and bold as I thought. Like up here, these are basically all neutrals that I could use all the time. So if I show them up close, like those are shades I could use all the time. And then these are a lot more wearable. The only things I would probably stay away from for the most part is the purples down here, only because they're not as wearable for me. Today we are going to do a more neutral look, and then Wednesday I will have a look with some of these more pinks and purples, brighter shades, just so you guys can see like kind of both and how they both perform. So, because like I said, the first time you see this, you basically just see all the pinks and purples, and you don't really see all of these neutral, like more wearable shades that you could use pretty often. I'm not sure which shimmer or glitter I want to use. Rider Diamonds is like the prettiest one, I think, which is this one up here, but we're just gonna kind of test things out and see what we want to do. So I already have makeup on from today, so I'm gonna remove the eye makeup and then we'll go ahead and reprime and start all over again. Okay, so now we've got everything off of the eyelids. So first I think I'll go ahead and just reprime with some concealer. I have the e.l.f. 16-hour camo concealer. This is the shade Medium Sand, and I'll go ahead and just blend this out, and then we'll get started with the eyeshadow. And if anyone's wondering, I really do like this concealer as an eyeshadow primer, just because since it's so matte, it sets itself down and I don't have to add more powder on top of my lid, since I'm going to be applying so much eyeshadow, and then things don't get like creasy and wrinkly looking or anything like that. Okay, so now I think the first shade I'm going to go into is Perfectionist, which is just like this kind of, it's not a little bit pink, but it's just more of like a light nude. So I'm going to use that and first just go all over in the crease. Okay, so this is going on pretty nicely, and it's honestly really light. I didn't know how well it was going to show up, but it is showing up pretty well. The kick up is like, it's a little bit chalky, but I don't really care about that as long as I'm not, like, as long as each time I'm pressing into the palette, it's not just like exploding underneath the brush and then it's going everywhere and you're kind of just breaking it all up and you're kind of just wasting the shade. So we'll continue to build this up a little bit. Just make sure everything's nice and even. It is going on really evenly. And like I said, with that concealer, if you're wanting something to prime the eyes, but you don't want to go get another product, or you don't want to add an extra step, or something you have to keep on hand, that concealer works really, really well. And then that way, like I said, you get to skip the step of setting it with powder too. Okay, so everything's pretty nice and blended. So now we're going to go into Thick Skin, which is quite a bit deeper. So like I said, we went from here to this one. This one's definitely more rosy, and it is a little bit deeper. So we're going to take that and go a little bit below where we just did, and hopefully keep the gradient effect that we're kind of going for. Okay, honestly, this is going on really, really nicely. I'm really not having to build up much at all. It's going on pretty well. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other eye. And like I said, we're just keeping it a little bit lower than that first shade we went through, just so we can keep everything kind of nice and gradient and pretty. And then after, the way I like to typically apply my shadow is I'll blend things as I go, and then at the very end, I'll kind of go on this outer edge and really blend that out. The reason I like to wait till the end is because I can take that first shade, because the first shade you use tends to get a little bit lost. So we'll go back in with that and use a little bit of that shade to go ahead and blend everything together. So next I do want to go in, I love the shade Homebody. It's like a burnt orange color. I love that, but I also really like G Money. I'll show you the difference between the two. This is Homebody here, and then G Money is over here. So I think maybe I'll go in with Homebody. So with that shade, I'm gonna take a different brush. Okay, I'll take this one, and then with this, we're gonna go right on top, a little bit lower. I do have a bit of lid space, but you know, with so many shadows, you can only go so far. So I'm gonna try and focus things a little bit lower, but I do want them to still overlap. Okay, so this shade is really, really intensifying things. Honestly, all of these have been very, very pigmented, and especially for the neutrals are not as hard to be formulated as, you know, these crazy, the pinks and the bright purples, and especially the reds, but still they are performing really, really nicely. So going in with Homebody again, just kind of deepening up a little bit more. And I do want this also to be focused a little bit on the inner corner. So typically we like to darken up and deepen up the outer crease, but I like to do it on the inside as well when I'm doing a look where I know I'm going to be applying a glitter or something on top all over the lid, so I can kind of carve that out and we still have definition on the interior side of the eyes. Just going to keep going in a little bit further in here. And I think it's looking really, really nice. So we're gonna go ahead and do the other eye, get that built up. And really, it's not taking me a lot at all. I would say first pass, it's pretty decent. For what I'm wanting, I'm going in a second time, and then I'm exactly where I want. So with this palette, I feel like I'm really not having to put in a ton of effort in order to, you know, get the look that I'm wanting. I think it's really just coming through. Second time, it's exactly what I'm wanting. Going in with Homebody again on the second eye, focusing it a little bit lower than the second shade we used. Okay, so that's pretty deep. That's kind of what I'm wanting. And then now I really want to add some definition to the outer V. Okay, one complaint, the only one I have so far about the palette, is that we don't have a super deep dark, a dark brown for, you know, deepening up the outer V or anything like that. The only thing we have is a black. Honestly, I don't really want to go in with that. I actually have her first palette as well, so I think some of that and see, I guess maybe that would be a good little comparison. Take one of those shadows to deepen up the outer V and then remind ourselves what that palette was like and the quality improvement from there. Okay, so taking her first palette, it's very well loved. I used to use this one all the time on like a daily basis. I think I'm going to use this deep dark brown down here. It is Central Park, so we're going to go in with that and just deepen up the outer V a little bit. Okay, so one thing I do notice is from the first palette, picking up that shade, it's not kicking up whatsoever. It's really not kicking up at all. And sometimes, you know, different formulations allow for more kick up, some don't, so that's part of it as well. But it's just something I've noticed. So we're gonna go in the outer V, really keeping it pretty far out here. I don't want to take it in a ton. We are pretty deep in here with the oranges that we have. Okay, so it's not layering too well on the top. It's not layering too well. I don't know if you can see up here, it's not really showing up. Let me try a different shade. Let me try going in with this one here. It is Chip. So I'm gonna try that one and see if we can build it up a little bit. And same with this shade, nothing kicked up. When I just tapped into the palette a little bit, nothing came up at all. Okay, so this one seems to be performing a little bit more nicely. It's going on a little bit patchy over the top, so maybe that's the first palette, maybe it's the second one, but let's see. We'll go in on the other side to get everything evened out. Okay, so this eye's going on a lot more nicely, so I'm not sure what that's telling us, you know, whether it's from the first palette or the second, but it is going on a lot more nicely. So let's see if we can just get this evened out a little bit. All right, so now I am gonna go in with the first shade we used, Perfectionist. And I'm gonna pick that up on the original brush we used and just see if we can blend out the outer edges a little bit more. Like I said, I do like to use an original shade or a lighter shade to blend everything out, so then that way, you know, sometimes we lose that original shade and we want to bring it back a little bit, so that's what I'm going to try and do here. Okay, so it's blending out pretty well. It's going to take a couple more passes to get it nice and smooth. And as far as like the whole Jaclyn Hill controversy goes and everything, I used to be a really big fan of hers, and then I just kind of fell off when she started really evolving and changing and everything, just because I thought she wasn't as relatable, but I still do really like her. I really just think if she puts out a good palette, it's a good palette. I don't think she should have all these extra expectations because a couple of them, you know, didn't go as planned. If a palette's good, a palette's good. Like, it doesn't really matter who made it. So going in on the other eye, just doing the same thing. I'm gonna try and really even everything out, kind of like flush everything out, make everything nice and smooth and even, and gradient, no harsh lines, all of that. So this eye, it did take me maybe 5 minutes to get it totally blended. So not the fastest, but that's not terrible either. And it did get there. So I'm gonna go in on this eye, get everything nice and smooth, and then we will go in on the lid. This outer corner is like extremely, there's like a huge patch there for whatever reason. And I tried building it up to see if we could, you know, kind of fill in that gap and get everything evened out, and it didn't quite get there. So I'm not sure why that is. This eye, it is pretty well softened and blended. Honestly, the way this is performing is honestly, I think it's really, really nice. The one patchy shade, that it could be from the old palette, because we really didn't focus otherwise in that outer corner too much, except for this first palette. So I think that's what I'm gonna attribute the patchiness to. Up here, I just cannot get this quite blended out. So it's getting better the more that I go, but then I've really lost a lot of that depth. So you can see on this side that huge patch over here, and then over here we have everything really nice and deep. So I'm not quite sure why that is, but I'm gonna refill her in a little bit and just barely buff over to make it appear like it's nice and blended, but I'm hoping I can just let it sit, not touch it, and it'll kind of fill in that gap in the patch that we have. So I think that's the best we're gonna get on that eye. I am gonna go in with the lid color, and I think I'm gonna go in with Get Ready With Me. I'm just gonna spray my brush, carve it out the best I can, and then we'll be back to kind of blend everything, and then we'll be back with liner. Okay, so that shade is going on really, really nicely. It does seem to be pretty opaque. It's going on smooth. It's not making my lid look wrinkly or anything, and that happens to me a lot with shimmers. And I don't have eyelid wrinkles, but I think all of the reflection, and especially if I'm piling on different powders onto my eyelids, that shimmer just really picks up all that texture from the powders and then reflects them off. But I'm not having that here. It's going on really, really well. I'm gonna finish blending this out towards the outer corner a little bit more, and then we'll go on with this eye. Okay, so now let's go in on the other side. Okay, I honestly love this shade. Like, I have obviously tons of golds and tons of like bronzy shades, but this one is like, I feel like it's reflecting a little bit of blue or something. It looks really, really good. So just respraying my brush because it kind of dried out a little bit. And honestly, I really like that this palette does scream like big and bright and colorful, but it does still include a lot of neutrals in there so that tons of other people can wear it on a daily basis, but then they can still have those colors in their collection. Because like I said, the first time I saw this, I was like, oh no, I don't really want it. I'm not gonna buy it because a lot of those shades won't work for me on a regular basis. And then I looked at it again and I was like, you know what, this actually does include a lot of different options that you could do. So I really like that she included that, just because the big, bright, fun colors are fun to have and to do sometimes, but like for me, I work in an office. I can't wear purple eyeshadow all the time or like the hot neon pinks. Actually, this shade is really cool. These two right here are like really cool. They're not showing up as vibrant on camera, but in person they are a lot more neon. They're really, really cool. So, and it'll be interesting because like I said, Wednesday I am doing a more vibrant, colorful look to upload. So it'll be interesting. Maybe I'll use those and test it out, and then we'll see, because a lot of those neon shades are really hard to formulate and make them really, really nice. On that outer corner, we're gonna go back in with the deeper shade and just kind of tap on top, make sure everything's really smooth. Just gonna kind of tap on this edge where we have a little bit of that line from between the shimmer and between the darker shade. And that also gives us a little bit more warmth, or in that outer V too. I'm just blending a few spots that I saw that weren't super smooth on the outer edge. Okay, so this is what we're looking like. I think now, just quickly highlight the inner corner, and for that I'm going to use, let's go in with a matte. Let's use Certified from the palette, and I'm just taking this little brush, little pencil brush, and we're just gonna highlight. And I like it with a matte sometimes. Sometimes I think that looks really, really nice, and especially when we have such a bold lid going on. Just take that, and then we'll do same thing above the, or beneath the brow bone as well. And brow bone highlight, I don't like to go crazy. I just like doing a little bit. I feel like that can really like, it just kind of ruins it for me sometimes. So just a little bit. And then next we are going to go in with liner, and I think we will do a nice wing, and then we will finish off the look. Okay, so for liner, I am going to use a liquid liner. It's from Wet n Wild, the Mega Liner. I love this. It doesn't run at all, and I think it's like $3 maybe. But a trick in case your eyeliner does happen to run, I know some eyeliners just aren't good and that'll cause that, but for some people they have actually oily eyelids. And this isn't me, but if this pertains to you, I know something that helps me when I have a crappy eyeliner that doesn't want to stay and it runs throughout the day, and then you get these dark little lines out in the outer corner. Something to do is make sure when you're setting your under eyes that you're really, really going up and getting as close to that line as possible, and really setting where you know that liner is going to be, and that'll help everything kind of stay more intact. Okay, so I'm going to go in with a little wing, and then we'll come back for mascara. Okay, so both wings are on. I was already wearing mascara today. Like I said, I had my face already done, but I am going to go ahead and just reapply in case there's any shadow, you know, kind of dulling things down. Oh, and for mascara, I have the Essence Get Big Lashes Volume Boost Mascara Clump Free. So this I think is like $3.99. One of the best mascaras I've ever used. Before this, I loved Lights Camera Lashes. That was one that was like, oh my god, this is so good. This is really, really good as well. It is like more of like a wet formula, which can be tricky sometimes, especially if you're gonna get, if you happen to get it on your under eye or up above, because it is so wet. It's a lot easier to just smear around when you're trying to fix it. But as long as you're careful and with practice, it's not hard at, or it's not bad at all. Okay, so this is what the finished look looks like. My lighting's not super good in here, so I'm gonna get a little bit closer and then just show you. So this is what she looks like. So if you guys want to see more, please think about subscribing. Leave a comment down below. Maybe like the video. And from here on, my upload schedule will be Monday and Wednesday. I'll have new content every week.